All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Ivan Oberon, and you're tuning in to Bird Dog to Intern. And it is, what is it? It's Thursday, February 6th already. No, March 6th. Holy cow. I almost lost an entire month. I think I was stuck in a dungeon somewhere with Sean, and he must have kept me out of the sun and light because I just lost an entire month. Anyway, so it is Thursday, March 6th, and this is once again Bird Dog to Intern. We're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour this evening. I'm happy because this is, I think, the first one that I've done in a while where it's still a little bit of daylight out coming through my window as we're starting this thing. I do see quite a few newer names. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to take you through the basic process of what this is. Most of you are already familiar with it, and so we won't spend too much time boring any of you in that. But because of the new people here, I want to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page as far as what it is that we're doing, what the purpose of the program is, kind of how it's changed and progressed over time. And that's been kind of by design because nothing should stay the same, and everything needs to be continually progressing and improving, and that's what we're here to do. And then what I want to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about being efficient and how you focus and how you eliminate certain things in your lives, and how you can go on what we're going to call a low information diet or an elimination of certain things, because I notice a significant amount of distractions or people getting distracted. People get started and then they get distracted and then they come back and then they go away and then they're never heard from again, because there are so many distractions and we're getting pulled in so many different directions every single day by so many different things. I mean, if you look at my screen, I have like 5 email clients up. If you count the one down here in my whatever they call the thing on the Apple down there, my in my base on the bottom of the screen. So anyway, so there's so many different things that pull at us and that tug at us, and there's a specific reason why those things are making us less effective. And if any of you have ever gone through your day and you felt busy and you thought you were doing okay, and at the end of the day you sit there and you do an inventory of what it is that you accomplished, and you're just like, you know what, I was busy all day but I didn't get anything done. Like, what is going on here? What happened? Was this a waste of my day, or man, I thought I was going to be so productive, but then you do an inventory and you're just like, you know what? I don't have any real results to show for all that busy work that I did, and there are reasons for why that happens. And so I'm going to dive in a little bit into how you can improve those things and kind of identify them and be on the lookout for them to prevent you from going that way. Okay, and so hopefully that'll be helpful for you. It'll be useful for you. I know it's a good refresher for me because it affects everybody. Okay, every single one of us is subject to these things, and that's why we need to be made aware of them and conscious of them so we can avoid those things. All right. So what is it that we're doing? How did this thing get started? What we're focusing on here is a need in the industry, and that's one of the primary functions or primary things that you want to have. If you're going to build a business around something, you need to identify a pain or need in the marketplace and then work to create a solution for it, instead of just going out there into the marketplace and throwing something out there and attempting to force it down everybody's throats, and this is what people need, when there wasn't really a demand or a call or a need for it. So what we have identified here is an owner finance lease purchase type strategy to help people purchase a home when they are not otherwise qualified for conventional financing. So fully 90% of the population right now does not qualify for conventional financing to purchase a home due to the stringent guidelines that are in the marketplace today by lending guidelines. So the mortgage implosion started to take place in 2007. That was kind of the height of everything. And you guys know what happened after that. Before that, all you had to do was fog a mirror in order to get conventional lending, and there was fully stated loans, and you didn't have to really prove anything. Your boss could kind of fake a pay stub for you if they wanted to, and all these crazy things. No income true income verification, all these things that were just getting people loans left and right. And of course, that's kind of what created the crash that ended up taking place anyway, because people really could not service those loans, and then we had all the foreclosures and everything crashed, and you know the rest of the story. So since then, it's only become more and more difficult to qualify for conventional financing. This January, they passed some new regulations as well. Prior to that, FHA and VA, or FHA, I'm sorry, passed some additional guidelines, making it more difficult for people to qualify by adding things like charge-offs and different liens and collections and things like that to the debt-to-income ratios, which they didn't used to do before. And so now you have a lender who is lending on 75% of new loans, making it even more difficult for people to qualify. So now there are less and less qualified buyers. But people that still want to move, people that still want to purchase a home, people that still have needs. And so you come in with a specific strategy to take care of that need, address that need. And if you have buyers that don't qualify and that are desperate to buy a home, because that's still the American dream for whatever that's worth, you're definitely going to have sellers on the other side that are going to have that same issue, only now they are unable to sell their homes in a quick fashion because they are unable to find the surplus of qualified buyers that there used to be. So whether you've ever invested in real estate before, or whether this is the first stab that you're taking at it, and this is the first strategy that you're going to go into it with, there's a need regardless, because I started out as a rehabber. I was fixing and flipping houses here in California, and I moved to different states, had my successes, had my pains. And one of the things that I realized, obviously, is as a rehabber, even though rehabbing is kind of going by the wayside as far as how it used to be and the way it was years ago, it's not the same anymore. And the myriad of reasons, including less inventory, shorter spreads, and all those different things, the end buyer, which is your exit strategy, right? The person who's going to buy that house and help you make that profit is going to be a conventional retail buyer. So since we have already established that there are less and less qualified buyers, and so less and less sellers have the ability to sell their properties in a timely fashion, well, guess what? That puts you as a rehabber in that position of being able to, not being able to find as many qualified buyers as you would, or as you would like to. So that creates an additional need, which is why I started making kind of this shift over into cash flow and into this particular strategy, because you can fill a need, whether it's a conventional seller or if you're a rehabber. I have 3 properties right now that I was marketing, of my own properties that I was marketing for this specific strategy. But I just sold one of them. I have 2 more on the market, and we're getting quite a bit of traction. We're getting more traction for this strategy than we're getting through our realtor, who is also marketing the property. So again, we're identifying the need, and we're going out there offering a solution, and that is a good way to build a business model. So moving on, what is the opportunity here? Why would you want to get into this? There's an opportunity for you to get involved in a way that doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't cost you any money to source the leads. You're not putting any amount of your capital out there to actually purchase these properties, because we're taking the properties under a non-exclusive option contract so that you actually get equitable interest in the property, giving you the legal right and ability to market those properties to potential buyers. But you're not putting any of your own money at risk. You're not putting any investors' monies at risks. You're not paying, monthly payments or interest or any of these things, regardless of how long it takes you to sell one of these properties. And you're offering a win-win situation to both parties. So let me address a couple of those benefits, so to speak, because I know this comes up for those of you who are already making phone calls. This might come up, and you can kind of use this as some foods for thought as far as what are the benefits. Why is this different than what most people are already doing or have been doing? And the way that we initially market it or present it to both sellers and buyers is we use terminology that most people are familiar with and are comfortable with to a degree. So most people are already familiar with the words rent to own, RTO, lease purchase, lease option, all those types of things. People have an understanding or have at least heard it, so it's not foreign. And so there's they may not understand it inside and out, but it's at least it's a way to open the door into them saying, okay, well, I'm agreeable to hear more, or how does it really work, or whatever happens, right? Now, what we're actually doing here is superior to a conventional lease option or rent to own, because the majority of those transactions, I would say, do not end in a successful transaction or a successful close or purchase of that property, which is ultimately what everybody wants, right? We want that not because we necessarily profit from it, but because it's good for our reputation. We're the ones providing the service, putting things together. So the more successful transactions, the better feedback we're going to get, and so on and so forth. It's good for the seller because he gets his property sold. It's good for the buyer because they get to nobody's going to sell the property out from underneath them. They get to continue to own the home, and so on. So the one of the major downfalls of a lease option or conventional rent to own scenario is that there isn't any upfront commitment imposed on either party. So the seller can choose to sell or not sell the property to somebody who really wants to buy it. The tenant really can choose to exercise or to not exercise their option down the road, or maybe they're not qualified, or maybe they're not really all that committed, so they're not saving up the money, and all these different things. And so 2 years go by and they're still nobody's ready to go, or the seller changes their mind and they decide to sell it to somebody else, or put somebody else in there, or whatever happens, or they stop making payments and they get foreclosed on. So there are all these crazy things that do happen, which creates a failure of this process and makes it to where it's a less than favorable situation. Now, that being said, it's the craziest thing you'll ever see, because even though it's a less favorable situation, it's still something that people are familiar with. So that familiarity almost gives them a level of comfort. And even after you explain to them the benefits of why they would want to do something different, they just won't. They just don't do it, and you move on. But the benefit here, as far as that's concerned, is the only people that we deal with are going to be committed buyers. And we do that and we ensure that through our pre-qualification process and our pre-screening process. And we want to make sure that they are otherwise qualified for conventional financing. So there's going to be a myriad of reasons why a person does not qualify for conventional financing right now. And it can be credit, but in many cases it's not. So when you're talking to people and you're explaining anything, don't make a big deal about credit. Don't focus on credit. Don't say anything about that. Just like you wouldn't say anything about the down payment and all these different things. Because in a conversation, if you don't make a big deal out of it, it typically won't become a big deal. If you don't address things, if it's all about the words that you use in order to control the conversation. So moving on, the way that we structure these things is actually called a contract for deed, where the deed does not convey, or you can say, that's what ends up happening. But it's a contract for deed that is structured in a way that is in compliance with the IRS installment purchase contract guidelines, so that it does become a bona fide purchase from day one. So we're not getting somebody in there that's going to have, an option to buy, is going to come in there and lease it with an option to buy. And that's all it is. A lease is just a fancy term of saying that they're going to rent it. Okay. It's just a rental agreement. So, lease, people think it's, I don't know what people think, but they think that it's a little bit more fancy, so they have a higher level of comfort or whatever, but it's just a renter. They're just a renter coming in there to rent your property and maybe do something with it later if they want to. But this is actually an installment purchase contract, and it is in compliance with the IRS installment purchase contract guidelines, and that's what makes it a bona fide purchase from day one. So the benefit to the seller is the fact that we have somebody that is committed to purchasing the property from day one, because they are buying it on paper from day one using this contract. Now, the deed does not ever convey and nothing is ever recorded, so the seller maintains control of the property. So that's another benefit to them, is they don't, there is no deed conveyance, nothing ever happens. You don't have to worry about the due on sale clause and all these different things that don't happen so long as the mortgage is maintained by the seller, and everything goes smoothly. So there's the benefit of having somebody who's committed. They're already purchasing the property, and all they're doing is working to get qualified during the contract term to essentially do a refinance at the end of that contract term and cash the buyer out at full price. So that's the other benefit. People will say, well, so and so, they told me to send them an offer, or what do I do? And that's the thing. We don't make offers. Okay, we write and execute contracts. The reason we don't make offers is because we don't go back and forth. This isn't a conventional sale. We wanted to make sure that it's a win-win for everybody and that it's fair for everybody. So that's one of your leverages. Another benefit to the buyer is that they're going to get full price, understanding that no bank is going to lend above appraised value. So they're not going to be able to sell their house for whatever they want. It's going to be fair market value or appraised value, or a set price that they want, subject to the appraised value. Of course, that protects the buyer as well, because they can't ever overpay for the property, because the price really takes care of itself based off of the appraisal. And well, who's going to do the appraisal? Well, just like any other time anybody would buy a house conventionally, the bank or a third-party appraiser is going to appraise the property, and that's what it's going to be. The sellers and the buyers can have their choice or option to pay for another opinion or another appraisal if they want to. But point of the matter is, it's just a conventional standard appraisal at the time the cash is going to take place. So typically 2 years down the road. And that way, the seller is always going to get full price, and the buyer is always going to be protected and ensured that they're never going to be able, they're never going to pay too much for the property. So whatever happens with the market, that's how it's going to be worked out. Okay, so that's another benefit to the seller, is they're going to get full price, plus they're going to get a payment every single month. That's an interest-only mortgage payment, so that they're cash flowing. It's non-refundable. Nothing's going to knock down the principal on the property. Nothing like that. That's the way the contract is structured. Hang on a second. I'm getting a. Okay, somehow my audio was doing something weird. So they're not going to take any kind of loss or anything like that based off of the payments that they're going to make, and that payment is going to be either equal to making sure that it's going to cover the principal and interest and property taxes every single month, so that it takes all the financial burden of the note service or the debt service away from the seller. The buyers are going to take care of all the maintenance and repairs, because again, they are looked at as an owner, buyer, borrower, whatever you want to call them, and the seller is looked at, takes the position of seller to lender or mortgagee. So that's going to be an additional benefit. There is, they will either receive that payment that's equal to that, or in some cases you're gonna run into sellers that have significant equity, and so you might have a $600,000 house, and once you do your due diligence, you find out, well, my total net on the property is $2,500 a month. You're like, okay, so that should be an indicator right there. That on a $600,000 property, for it to be $2,500 a month, that he's got equity. That payment isn't going to be enough to is going to be equal to whatever the value of that property is. So that's another tool that you guys will be able to use for leverage. And here's how. You're gonna have when you're making calls, you're gonna have your handy dandy online mortgage calculator with you, and so that you can have a fluid conversation about what's going on. And they tell you that information, and you punch in $600,000, and you're going to see that a payment on $600,000 at roughly 5% simple interest amortized over 30 years, including property taxes, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,600 to $3,800 a month. And so now you can come back and say, okay, well, so blah, blah, blah. So you're paying $2,500 a month. All right, well, we would present your property to our list of buyers at $3,800 a month, and then you would cash flow the difference. And why would you do that? Well, now you're feature benefiting another thing to the seller, making it more appealing to them, giving them another benefit of what it is that you're doing. And the other reason that you're doing that is because, again, from the beginning, we want to structure these things for success from the beginning. And somebody who's going to be buying a $600,000 property needs to be able to afford the payment on a $600,000 property today, not later, not down the road, but today. So that's what they're going to be buying it for. They need to be able to afford it, because we can't, okay, here you go. You're going to pay $2,500 a month for 2 years, and then hopefully your income will increase, and hopefully, who knows what will happen, and then by the time the cash out takes place, you're going to be able to afford to take on an additional $1,300 a month, right? No, baloney. That's not the way it works, and that's not the way we're going to set them up, and that is the way a lot of people do set them up. Furthermore, along those lines, another thing that the buyers need to have is they need to be what I always call otherwise qualified for the program right now. So otherwise qualified for conventional financing. So they don't qualify right now for conventional financing. What does it mean to be otherwise qualified, or what do I mean by it? That means that they have the financial wherewithal to get into the property right now and can afford the monthly payments based off of their income. And so what having the financial wherewithal to get into the property means that they're going to have the requisite down payment today, not later. Okay, that's another way that this is a benefit for everybody involved, because we're setting these things up for success. So we're going to follow conventional lending guidelines, Freddie, Fannie, FHA, jumbo, super jumbo. So based off of those guidelines, the typical down payment that we're going to require on FHA, Freddie, Fannie is going to be 5%. So once you get into jumbo, it's going to be 10. Super jumbo is going to be 20 to 30, somewhere along those lines. So if you know that you're working with let's say it's a $400,000 property, that's going to be a 5% down payment at the very least. Okay, and that's one of the verbiages or the word tracks that you guys will use when speaking with somebody. And that's going to be more advanced training, obviously, down the road, because that's when you're dealing with buyers. And one of the things that you'll notice is when you're pre-qualifying a buyer and you ask them what they have to work with as far as the down payment is concerned, a lot of times people are going to be hesitant to tell you, just come out straight out and, oh, I got like 40 grand. A lot of times they'll say, well, it depends. And it's just a stall tactic, because they don't want to put all their cards out on the table. So a very easy way to avoid that and to appear transparent and give them factual information is just to say just that. We follow conventional lending guidelines of FHA, Freddie, Fannie, blah blah blah. So it's going to be anywhere between 3.5% to 5%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%, depending on the value of the property. Blah 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 blah. So you address the question, you validate their concern, you give them the answer, and then you come back and say, so what do you have? What are you working with by way of a down payment right now? And then, then they'll go ahead and tell you that, okay, well, I have, 15,000 or 20,000 or 40,000, whatever it is. And they're buying a $400,000 property. They tell you they got $50,000. Well, that's more than enough. Okay. Because the last thing that you want to do also is take people's, entire savings, take all their money and their reserve fund, and then something happens or their car breaks down and whatever it is, and they don't have a little bit of a backup, and now they can't make the monthly payment, and now you end up in all kinds of trouble. So you don't ever want to take advantage of people. You always want to make sure that it is a win-win situation, and you will continue to do more and more and more business. And don't be like those other guys that there's a $200,000 property, I got 40,000. Yep, that's 40,000 is what you need. That's exactly right. You know what I mean? So that's not how we run things. All right, I got a quick question. How do we decide what percentage we get from the down payment? Okay, hopefully I just addressed that. Okay, so depending on the value of the property, typically it's going to be 5%. In the lower end properties, like below 500,000, it's going to be 10% and above once you start going above $500,000. Okay, because that's what conventional lending is going to require. And we'll get into that in another section and another time. And obviously, through the coaching program, we're going to dive into significant detail into all of that. But that's basically, I mean, you have a myriad of benefits here because it is a purchase. Okay, they're just becoming the bank, just like a Wells Fargo. They're going to have the same responsibilities and rights to maintain, just like a lender, a conventional lender does. But it's pretty much low touch, right? The lender still has to make sure that they're keeping up with their. They're not going to come and take the property away from you as long as you're making your payments on time and all these different things. Okay, so question was clarified. I meant the split with the seller. Okay. This is going to be another thing that we're going to teach you guys, because that happens a lot. The question is, what about the split with the seller, with the down payment? Okay. The down payment is how we get paid, guys. So quit throwing your money away. Quit throwing money on the table. Seriously. If you don't make any big deal about the down payment, the down payment won't come up. I never bring up the down payment. I never say anything about the down payment. And when they ask me, well, what's in it for you? How do you get paid? Because we do everything for free for the sellers, and they address that. I just say we get paid or I say the incoming buyers that we source for you pay for any and all of our fees, or any and all of our fees are paid for by the incoming buyers that we source for you. And I move on, and that's it. You answer the question, you address it, and blah 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 blah. And sometimes they ask me, well, what do you get paid, or do you charge a fee or a percentage or whatever? And I tell them, yeah, I typically charge 5%, but that's my fee. I'm not making it a down payment. Okay, that's my fee. I typically charge 5%. Address the question and move on. Okay, you have to control the conversation. You cannot let the tail wag the dog. That is your money that you're leaving out there. Okay. Now there's going to be situations where you're dealing with a seller who's a little bit more savvy, who understands the process, who has done lease options or purchases or whatever. So they have a little bit better understanding, and they already have their own ideas of, the only way I'll do this is if this and this and blah blah blah, and these terms have to be met, right? In those cases, you have to analyze and you have to see if there is a deal there to be done. Okay, because I've seen contracts come through where it's a $400,000 property, and seller requires $25,000, and she's like, okay, so you expect us to work for free now? No, we're not going to work for free. If he requires $25,000, guess what? I mean, somebody buying a $400,000 property might not even come up with that kind of money. So if that's barely enough to cover what the down payment would be, how are we going to get paid? Now, if somebody tries to strong arm you, or they're talking about that and whatever, you just come right back and tell them, like, well, okay, well, how much of that down payment or monthly payments do you want me to participate in? Because this is your time. Okay, your time is valuable. You have to value your time, and you have to have others value your time also, even if you have to force them to value your time. So how much of that down payment and monthly payments do you want me to participate in? Well, what do you mean? Well, how do you expect me to get paid? How would you like me to get paid for doing this? I'm already not charging you anything for it. And you know that I get paid by the incoming buyers. By now, in this case, they would understand, because they know that that's how people get paid, is by the down payment. So how do you expect me to get paid? How would you like me to get paid? How do we make this a win-win situation? And at the very least, you got to take 50%. You can't be saying, yeah, well, we're going to bring in 20,000 and then I'll take 3 or whatever. We're the ones doing all the work. Okay, we're drafting the contracts. We're putting everything in our company's name, assuming the liability, working with them to get qualified. We're doing everything. We're the ones sourcing the buyers. It's not like they bring us the buyer in the deal and they just want us to write it up. We're the ones marketing. We're taking all those expenses. We're doing everything. We're hand-holding these people for 2 years. I mean, there has to be something in it for us. And if there isn't, then it's not a deal and you move on. But you have to be the one selling. You're either selling or being sold. So you have to be the one selling. That's how you address it. You don't. So again, you don't split your down payments with the sellers unless there's absolutely no other option, and there can still be some kind of mutually beneficial thing that you can work out. Now, I'm not going to split a $6,000 down payment on a lower end property or anything. You know what I mean? But when you're dealing with higher end properties, say $1 million properties, I don't have any problem giving somebody 50% of that. I'll take 40, 50 grand and give them 40, 50 grand. Plus the rest of it, the way that it's structured, only the portion that the seller receives is going to actually take down the principal when they go to cash out, but the full amount is going to credit towards or is going to act as a credit for the down payment when they go to requalify the loan. All right. I hope that answered the question and I addressed that fully. You have to have that attitude though, guys. Okay, you have to be stern. You have to be like, I wasn't trying to get angry with you guys or being angry with you or anything like that, but you have to be passionate about that because you're letting people take money out of your pockets and steal from everybody in essence. Okay, this is our job. This is what we do. This is our business. This is how we're going to make money. This is how you're going to put food on the table. All these different things, and that's the way you have to think. Okay, you have to go into it of that's how you get paid. That money is yours. It's not anybody else's. You're providing the service. They're not having to pay their realtor $20,000 to get their property sold. You know what? All these different things, right? So, what's in it for the buyer? Well, the buyer, of course, gets the benefit, legal rights, and tax advantages of home ownership, just like the reason that they want to own a home. Okay, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. They will have a lender, not a landlord. They will have the ability to paint the house if they want to paint the house, have their in-laws live there if they want their in-laws, have whatever pets they want, whatever they want to do, as long as they're taking care of and or improving the property. Of course, not damaging it or turning it into a parking lot or anything like that. They're gonna get those benefits. Also, especially if they are a W-2 employee, they're going to receive a net increase in their take-home pay because they're going to be able to change their withholdings and use that monthly payment as a deduction, because the entire monthly payment is basically an interest only mortgage payment. So depending on the price of the property, I mean, we're talking several hundreds to more per month that they would be put in their pockets because of the tax advantages and by being able to change their withholdings and using that as a deduction. They're also going to get the benefit of a seasoning of a loan basically for that period of time, so that when they do go to obtain conventional financing, they are essentially just doing what's considered more of a rate and term refi, and they're going to have that 2-year seasoning of a loan to get them fast track them really into qualifying. They're going to have us work with them to help them get qualified. So that's an additional benefit. They're going to have a seller who is obviously already committed and selling the property to them. They're not going to put somebody else in there, and then they're not going to sell it out from underneath them. They're going to have certain safety guards in place. Like, for example, the seller has to provide them routine verification that the underlying mortgage and property taxes are being taken care of. So there's a lot of different benefits and safety nets for both parties the way that we structure these contracts. And of course, they don't have to move again. They don't have to worry about, well, am I gonna have to move? They can plant their roots and know that that's where they want to be. I mean, it's really, in my opinion, the only thing that is better would be a cash sale. So if you can get a qualified buyer or a cash buyer today, of course that's going to be a better deal all day long, every single day, whatever it is, take it if you can. If for whatever reason that's not an option or you're having a difficult time, this is the second best alternative to that. And one of the reasons that I'm telling you that, and that you can sense it in me that I believe that, is because whether you think you're a salesperson or not, everything that you do in life is sales. You're either selling something or being sold something. Every conversation, every interaction, everything that you do, whether you think you're actually selling a product or not, don't associate yourself with like a scummy used car salesman. That's what people think of as a salespeople, and that's the sales is bad and all this different thing. No, baloney. You know, we're going to develop your skills in sales and communication and rapport building and objection handling and feature benefiting and different types of closing techniques, all those different things, because that's what this is. And when you whittle it down to the basics, sales is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm. And the only way that you can really be enthusiastic about something is by, one, understanding it, because the more you understand something, the more you can believe in it and the more you will believe in it, so long as your understanding and the education that you receive in that subject is something that is in line with your values and what you want to do, and well, something that excites you and that you're doing well for others and providing a service and all those different things, right? Those things have to line up, but you have to educate yourself to the best of your ability so that you can fully understand it and grasp it, so you can fully be sold and sell yourself. You have to sell yourself first on the strategy, on what you're doing, on the benefits that you're providing, so that when you speak to somebody, you're not just regurgitating facts and information and minutia and this is how you do it. No, you're transferring that enthusiasm and the opportunity and benefits that you're really providing and that you're really bringing to the table. And of course, and being able to answer questions in an intelligent way is gonna be bring you a long way as well. You can't just be excited on the phone, bouncing off the walls, and not understand anything and expect to move forward. But it has to be there. It's a component of it. And so, if I would say to you, even if you can't get yourself to that level of belief, even if you understand it, but then you decide, what, I'm not sure if I can get excited about this. I'm not sure if this is really a benefit. I'm not sure if whatever it is, you should choose something else. Okay. Whatever it is, because anything that you do, in order for you to be able to do it successfully, you have to have that level of belief. All right. Have a question. Had a seller tell me he wanted $4,000 in case the buyer defaults. He wanted the money for eviction if necessary. Is this a deal worth doing? It all depends. It all depends on, again, the value of the property. If you know that you're potentially going to bring a down payment of $30,000-$40,000, and all you got to do is give him a little security deposit of $4,000, I would take that deal all day long. That is not an unreasonable request. And I mean, we're about being reasonable here. Okay. I'm saying don't give up your money and be the way you are, as much as you can, but it doesn't mean that there aren't instances or reasons that we can be flexible. Of course. So if it's a $80,000 property or $90,000 property, right? Which you all know that we don't focus on those things, but let's just say something like that fell into your lap. Okay, there's an opportunity and you never want to turn away opportunities. So let's just say something like that fell into your lap, and the down payment on something like that is going to be around $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. So, that wouldn't be a deal. But under a normal scenario where you're going to be getting $20,000, $30,000 for a down payment, I would do that deal all day long. Again, it's not unreasonable. And sure, that's basically having us pay for the eviction, and that amount would obviously decrease the principal when they go to cash it out, because any money that would go to the buyer direct or the seller directly will be basically applied against the principal as well. Hang on a second, I'm just taking a drink. All right. What are some good ways to find cash buyers? Good question, Dan. If we had cash buyers, we wouldn't necessarily be doing this. So I don't know if you're conflicting strategies here or what's going on. But the cash buyers would be more for potentially a different type of strategy. If the types of buyers that we're looking for here are buyers that want to make payments, buy the property under contract, have a down payment, not buy the house cash. And that's one thing that's crazy is you do run into those. Okay, so I'm not saying that you don't run into those. I had a guy call on a property. I was pre-qualifying him as a buyer, and I asked him what he had set aside for a down payment, And he told me he had about $1 million. So clearly, the guy could be a cash buyer. He could buy it cash, but he was choosing not to leverage himself completely against a property, which is smart. So he wanted to go into it and just put a significant down payment still, but be able to make payments and use some of his money for other things. If there is a cash buyer that comes to the table, we're still going to deal with that person, but it's going to be a little bit differently because we don't want to get cut out of the deal. And what ends up happening when you have people who are qualified or who have cash, what we would do in that case, we would essentially go and purchase the property subject to. So we would have the seller sign a different contract or agreement at that point, purchase the property subject to, so that now we are selling or the buyer is buying the property from us directly, so that we're part of the transaction and we don't get cut out by a realtor or by the seller themselves, especially after doing all the work and having the property and all these different things and even sourcing the buyer. So there, we can definitely deal with cash buyers. But the way, just to answer your question, Dan, is the way that we source our buyers is through our marketing engine. So our website, we blast the thing out on probably over 100 different websites. We use VFlyer, and of course it gets on Trulia and Postlets and all those different places. So we source buyers in a similar way that the realtors do, and we have a very powerful marketing engine as well to get those properties out there. It's just our ads are different, of course. Our ads are targeting no credit qualified people. Or whatever it is. I mean, you have to understand that if you're an entrepreneur, in most cases, you're not going to qualify. If you just change jobs, even if you're making $200,000 a year, you're not going to qualify. If you sold your business and started a new business and you're making $1 million a year, you're not going to qualify. There's all these different things, even if you have good credit, that are going to disqualify you from being able to qualify for conventional financing. Okay, so hope that's helpful. Now we're coming here 15 minutes to the top of the hour, so I want to talk a little bit about the subject that we're going to call kind of going on a low information diet and eliminating certain things out of your life and giving you even maybe a tool or two that you can use to help get you there. So let's see here. I want to start off with a quote by Herbert Simon. And it says, "What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes the attention of its recipients. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention and a need to allocate that attention efficiently among the overabundance of information sources that might consume it." You guys track me with that? Let me say it again. What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes the attention of its recipients. So what information are we talking about? What information are you guys coming in contact with every single day? As soon as your alarm goes off, I would wager that the majority of you out there, and myself included, have your alarm on your phone next to your bed. Right? So your alarm goes off, and then by the time you wake up and you turn your alarm off, and you open your phone, now you have all your different social media notifications, your email notifications, and all those different things, right? And every single one of those things, every single email and notification and newsletter and all that stuff is going to consume a bit of your attention. So hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. So all of that stuff is that wealth of information, right? Including all the cat pictures and all the stupidity that's out there as well. It's going to give you a poverty of attention, because that's why everybody has such a hard time focusing, it seems like these days, is because you have everything's going 100 miles an hour. You have all these different things, all these different tasks, all these different windows open, you have your phone calls coming in, you have your email alerts, then you have your instant messenger chat windows and all that stuff. And that's my day too. So, I mean, you have to understand that. And you need to allocate that attention efficiently among the overabundance of information sources that might consume it. So what we have to do is learn how do we channel that stuff efficiently. What do we do with that information? How do we select what it is that we're going to choose to give our attention to? Because the next thing you know, you end up like we started the conversation. It's the end of the day, and you did all these different things, and you have a headache because you've been staring at your computer and reading and all this stuff all day, and you're left wondering, what did you accomplish? What did you get done? If we're talking about this specifically, I know most of you have day jobs as well, so you could figure out how it is that you feel at the end of the day there. But if we're talking about this specifically, how many leads did I source? How many buyers or sellers did I call? How many properties did I get under contract? Like all those different things are gonna be a gauge of the performance of that day. And it's imperative that you learn to ignore or redirect all that information and interruptions that are irrelevant, unimportant, or unactionable. Again, most of those things are all three. They're either irrelevant, unimportant, or unactionable. And the first step is to develop and maintain that kind of low information diet. Just like, if you consume too many calories and the calories have no nutritional value, what are they going to do? They're not going to give you that energy that you need. They're not going to go anywhere but to waste and to places that you don't want them, right? So the same thing is going to happen to your brain and to your day if you consume information or excess information from wrong sources. So you got to talk about kind of like restructuring and kind of get into a little bit of a lifestyle design, so to speak. And that lifestyle design needs to be predicated on massive action or output. And your increased output necessitates decreased input, if that makes sense. So in order for you to be able to be most effective in your output or in your action, you have to decrease the input. Now that might appear at first glance to be counterintuitive, but it's not. It's not that you're decreasing the input of actionable and valuable information. You're increasing or you're decreasing the input of all that other stuff that is irrelevant, unimportant, or unactionable, right? You're only going to focus on those things that are relevant and are important and are actionable, something that you can do right now. And it's going to take you a little bit closer to your goals for that day or for that week or for that month or for your life in general, right? So most of the information out there, it's just time consuming. It's a time suck. It's negative. It's irrelevant to your goals and outside of your specific influence. And so what I'm going to do, or what I would do right now, is challenge you to look at whatever it is that you read or watched or spent time doing today, and tell me if it was at least two of those three things. And I would bet you that a lot of them were probably all three, right? Just raise your hand or say, yep, you're right. That's essentially what happened. So I'll give you a little tool here. It's called Leech Block. And man, anyway, just Google it. The link is crazy. I don't feel like typing it in, but just Google it. It's called Leech Block, LeechBlock, and essentially what that does, if you want to use it, it's just something that you could try if you want to try it. But what it does is it allows you to block certain websites and certain things for certain periods of time at certain times and dates and whatever. So you can literally do it and just automate it so that you don't have to think about it and think that you're losing something because you're closing you're closing a specific page or whatever. It just automatically blocks it for you for, say a period of 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever it is, so that you don't even have to think about it. So you can focus on the stuff that is immediate and that is important and that is something that you can do right now. And why is that? Why is that important? Why is it that you get to the end of the day and you do a survey of what happened and how busy you were, and then all of a sudden you think, man, what did I really get done today? And the problem is those interruptions. And there's a psychological switching of gears that can sometimes require up to 45 minutes to resume a major or important task once it's been interrupted. So, if you're spending let's just say you're working 9 to 5, that's probably more than a quarter of your day that is consumed just by that switching that takes place, because you're engaged in a task, you're doing something that's important, you're focused on it, and then you get a separate email, or you get a phone call, or you get called into the lunchroom, or whatever it is. A colleague comes and starts a off subject conversation with you, and whatever those things happen, it's an interruption in that focus. And then you have to get a drink of water, and you're doing this or that or whatever it is, and can take you up to 45 minutes to get settled back in and start being productive again. So those are the reasons. Okay, and thank you, Christopher. I'm not sure if everybody can see that link, so I'll just resend it, because I don't know that you guys can see each other's comments. So there you go. But thanks for providing that. That was very, very helpful. There you go, guys. And so anyway, so if you guys understand that's what's taking place, and man, I know I'm a victim of that myself. I know I fall prey and guilty to that, which is why I provide this information to you guys. Everything that we provide is always stuff that we've experienced. It's anecdotal. There are things that we've overcome, and successes that we've had, and all this stuff that is our life experiences. We're all subject to these same things, and you have to feed your mind in a way to make yourself aware of them and overcome them, and ask yourself questions throughout the day. Pete even talks about, it's all about the questions that you ask yourself, right? For whatever different reason, various different reasons, and ask yourself, am I being productive or just active? Ask yourself that when you're doing different things. And are you inventing things to avoid doing the important? And what does that mean? I mean, I can think back, especially when I was working in insurance full time, and even though I had a lot of leeway and latitude at that in that position, there was still, I was still in a job. I was still going to the office. I was still expected to be there at a certain time and stay till a certain time, and so on and so forth. So it was still a job, and there was different reasons that over the course of time. I was in there for 10 years, but over the course of time, there was different reasons that caused me to enjoy it less and less and less. And there was tasks at hand, but I didn't necessarily want to be there. And I had this interaction with somebody, or this run-in with somebody, and I just wasn't into it. And so you create things to just eat time. You invent things to not get things done, or to distract yourself, or you got to go to the water fountain again, or you got to go to the bathroom again, or you had to check this other email again, or for those of you who have internet access at work, you go on Facebook, right? And then all of a sudden you're killing 10, 15 minutes. But not only did you just kill 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're killing an hour, because you have that distraction and that interruption. And it's going to take you another 30, 45 minutes to get productive again. Let's see here. Yes, Christopher, you are right. Something related to this topic. And as a matter of fact, a book that I got some of this information from is The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. And it is a great book. It obviously is not an indicator that you only need to work 4 hours a week. It's kind of a more of a catchy marketing ploy that works very well. But that book just talks about lifestyle design. That's what that's all about. It's lifestyle design. And as a matter of fact, that book is what inspired Vincent to do what he does. As many of you might know, he doesn't stay put in one place. He goes and he travels around the country, and he moves 2-3 times a year, because he wanted to design his own life. He wanted to be a virtual real estate investor, and that gives him the ability and latitude and freedom to do that, to go move and to go live in these private gated resorts and on the beaches and you know, and $1 million properties and all these different things, because he chose to do that, and that book inspired him to be able to do that and to structure his life in a way that he could do that. So it is a very good read, and filled with some good actionable information. And so thanks, Christopher. Go ahead and add that to your reading list. And furthermore, to add to that, make sure that you are reading, okay? Because leaders are readers, and you have to fill your mind and constantly be educating yourself with information to give you more ideas and motivation and inspiration, education, all those different things. And I would suggest that you stay away from the escapism reading, and you read things and you listen to audiobooks that are actually going to expand your mind and propel your business. And so things like the 4 Hour Work Week. I like things like uh, not only Think and Grow Rich, but How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's all about interpersonal relationships. And I mean, really, it's a sales book. So, Mark, the book was called The 4 Hour Work Week. I would also recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I would recommend The Magic of Thinking Big. I would recommend The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. It's a great book to expand your thinking and what you think your abilities are, and for you to kind of reevaluate the amount of effort and energy that you're putting out there, what you think is necessary, and realize that really, you know, you need about 10 times as much as you're putting out there, you think that you need to put out there, or that you think is necessary. Think and Grow Rich, of course, all of you have heard of that book. So there's a lot of different great books out there, and I mean the list goes on. I have my own list that I can share with you, but um, you gotta sit down and take the time to start your day with something inspirational, motivational, or educational, by writing down your goals, and by really structuring the way that you want your life to be, and creating what that lifestyle design looks like for you. You know, you might not want to move every 4 months, and that's fine. But don't you want to maybe travel or see different parts of the world, or you know, help your family, or whatever it is? You know, you have to have those things that are going to be motivating you and pushing you forward along this journey. Um, that's gonna just about wrap up our hour, guys. So what I want to do is be very punctual here. Usually we run over, but I can smell the dinner cooking, and it's starting to distract me. But I want to open it up for a Q&A. You know, any questions, any concerns. This is the time where I'll answer any questions that you guys have, any comments, any feedback, whatever it is. You know, we'll go ahead and spend some time right now and address it. All right. Do you ever purchase subject to and hold the property, taking the installment payments as ongoing income, less the loan payment, of course, in addition to the upfront fee? Now, I haven't structured any deals like that, Fred, but of course, that is something that you can do when a seller is amiable to it. When we are, you know, sourcing the leads and getting the properties under contract, that is not what we're specifically presenting to those sellers, because the types of sellers that we're dealing with are not usually in a position where they're going to be motivated to do something like that. Those types of leads are typically sourced through other avenues, through wholesalers, through yellow letters, door knocking, driving for dollars, all those sorts of things, bandit signs, and they are viable, and that's a way to get into some cash flow as well. We just understand that you're taking the risk and responsibility of those payments being maintained in the event that that tenant that you put in there defaults. Let's see. There's a good book list on the Virtual Real Estate Investor page. I'm not sure if you're referring to the one on Facebook or not. So obviously all the files were deleted from that currently, and we're creating new files and going to be adding them to the virtualrealestateinvestor.org for access to all the new coaching members and members of the site. Okay. Any challenges you guys are facing this week? Anything that I said tonight that was not clear or that you would like me to go into a little bit more? I don't have any problem spending some time addressing those things with you guys. But your regularly scheduled program is coming to an end. Okie dokie. Anybody? Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's call. And this call will be on the website as well under podcasts. You go to c2crea.com/podcasts and you can download all the information there. If we are not connected on Facebook yet, please add me as a friend. That way we can communicate. I can answer questions. I can add you to our different pages and our groups. You definitely want to be part of the VRIA group as well, as we do a lot of our communication and deal sharing and different things on that particular site. If you'd like to learn more about anything that we're doing, you can check us out on our website as well. If you don't know how to find me, go to c2crea.com/connect, and you'll see my different links there. Obviously, this is my Brand Yourself profile. I've been over on brandyourself.com, and it has links to my Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Plus there also. But it's all about connecting, guys. That's how we grow this thing. That's how we understand what the opportunities are. That's how we plug into more opportunities with other people. We're also going to are about to release the revised coaching program. Hopefully by this weekend, we're going to be offering affiliate participations and different things as well to help you guys along. But the real purpose, of course, is to clear up some of the information that's been going on out there, because the problem is that people are telling things that just were not accurate. They're falling flat on their faces. Contracts aren't being written, or if they are, they're including all kinds of crazy different things. So we need to streamline that and fast track everybody to a success and plug them into a live, active, running business that has all the things built into it: the lead sourcing, the marketing, the sellers, the websites. We're going to be providing email support, calls, masterminds, videos. All those different things for everybody that's involved. And the more people who are successful, the better it is for everybody as a group. And that's what we hope everybody can understand, because we have over 3,000 members, and there's a handful of people that are producing. And that's it. And that's very, very sad. People, that comes down to people obviously not taking action, but we want to make sure that we help those who want to take action break through their fear, understand the information, make sure that they know what it is that they're talking about, how to handle the objections, learn how to sell. It's all about the different skills that you're going to learn that you can use anywhere. It's not just about learning what this specific strategy is, because there are more things that you can do with all the things that you're going to be learning. And there obviously are additional strategies, and being plugged into everybody is going to make it so that everybody can capitalize from the different leads that come in and the different buyers that come in. And we'll explain this so you can see the big picture, but it's very exciting for me to think about. And so we're very passionate about having everybody along for the ride. All right, Christopher, thank you for the compliment. And that's going to do it. You guys enjoy. Hope you found this useful and worth your while. I appreciate you investing this hour of your life with me. And, let me know anything that I can do to improve, anything that you guys maybe want me to talk about next time. Maybe you can give me a little heads up also, because I literally just think about what I believe will be useful for you guys and helpful to you guys, and provide that information. And so hopefully I've been on track so far. Have a great night, guys. We'll catch you online. And remember, guard your time from yourself and from everybody else. Okay, that's one of the things that, especially when you're making calls, that's why pre-qualifying is so important. Okay, make sure that you're on the line with a real prospect, and you got to identify that in the first 2 minutes max. And if not, you get off that phone call, because if you keep going down and talking, and next thing you know, you'll be going down this rabbit hole with somebody who all they're doing is just having you entertain them for 20, 30 minutes. and now you just wasted that whole time. So make sure you value your time. You force others to understand that your time is valuable and that you respect their time as well. And so pre-qualify on the phones and make sure that you set maybe even a task list of things that you're going to accomplish, and start with the most important task of the day and ignore other things as much as possible while you're going through it. This has been Bird Dog to Intern with Ivan Oberon. Hope you guys enjoy it and have a great night. Take care.